they managed to win. So I bring you Ray McClendon, Communities United for Justice. Welcome, Ray. I am so glad that you were able to join us tonight. Ray was there. Yeah, there he is. All right. There you are.
Hello, it's so wonderful to be with our partners in crime from the great organization Center for Common Ground. And thank you for that introduction, Andrea. And as she stated, in 2016 and 2018, we didn't get the results we were looking for when I was the political action chair for the Atlanta NAACP and subsequently became the same position for the Georgia NAACP. And what we found is that we've got all of these great organizations, civic engagement organizations in Georgia, and we were pretty much working in silos. So we decided to form a coalition in Georgia called Team Unity Georgia, which started really with the Divine Nine Court in collaboration with the NAACP, and we invited others in, such as the Prince Hall Masons, various faith-based organizations, different Urban League chapters, Black Voters Matter, and others. And what this coalition really allowed us to do was to coordinate our activities, just communicate more effectively together, which made us more efficient for the 2020 elections. And as you know, that was not only an election that saw Georgia's results turn blue for the presidential election, but we had two Senate runoffs that culminated in January 2021 by electing Senators Ossoff and Warnock. One of the things that we always note about those runoff elections is that we were able to return almost 95% of the Black voters who had voted in the general election in November indeed returned to the polls in January for the runoff, which was unprecedented. For most runoffs in Georgia, you are great if you can get 50–55% turnout from the general election. So we knew we were onto something there. But our secret sauce, one of the great components of what made Team Unity Georgia work was having a tremendous partner like the Center for Common Ground. Not only does the Center for Common Ground provide the technology, the digital platform, a national footprint that can galvanize volunteers and channel them into the right areas. But in terms of strategy and tactics and understanding what can really connect and work on the ground, we are just delighted with the resources and expertise that come from our relationship with the Center for Common Ground. So I can say unequivocally and unabashedly that we would not have been able to achieve the success that we did in 2020 and in 2022 in Georgia if it had not been for the Center for Common Ground. And so we are now excited about expanding that into 2024. As we know, Andrea is always going to have some new toys to play with. She's always adding to the toolkit. So we're always looking forward to being guinea pigs here in Georgia for the new tools that she has available that can help us in voter turnout. As Congressman Swalwell mentioned, we are indeed in play in Georgia. We see that the electorate is becoming more energized. Black voters are becoming more energized in Georgia. That energy is rising. It hadn't quite got there yet, but it's rising to the level that we saw from those Senate races and the presidential race in 2020. And we think that with the coalition now that we've built and broadening that with the additional resources and capability that we will have pouring into the state, especially with folks like Andrea's team will allow us to transform that energy into turnout. We can register all the people we want to. We can talk to them all we want to, but the whole motivation is to get the turnout. And that's one of the things, as was said, one of the speakers said earlier, you know, we have got to make sure that we get the turnout from these low propensity voters, from non-registered voters, get them registered, but we've got to turn them out. And if we turn out by an increase of 10% or more of Black voters in most of these states, especially in the South, where Center for Common Ground is working, we could virtually win every race that we want to challenge. It is that simple. 10%. So we're not talking about qualitative issues here. We are into the quantitative analysis of where to go across the state. Georgia has 159 counties, and we've identified across those 159 counties which counties represent about 90% of the Black vote. And with the help from the Center for Common Ground, with their various programs, with their analytics, with their targeted messaging for postcarding, for texting, for phone banking, and for creating turfs for canvassing, we can target those voters with a message from local people. We love to use the term that we are using trusted messengers to deliver target messages. And that's what we intend to do once again in Georgia. We know that works. It's worked in our coalition. It has worked all the way back to the civil rights movement. And we know that is what will make the difference. And so with all of the capacity and infrastructure of the Center for Common Ground, we're excited that now with this energy rising, we will be able to channel that energy into getting those numbers up, increasing that turnout in Georgia. And then finally, one of the things that also we must keep our eye on the prize is that because of voter suppression, it is becoming more nuanced and more complicated as we go. When our state election board now is comprised of some MAGA cultists now that have majority control. They were actually called out in one of the Orange One's rallies that he had here. He called them out for a reason, because they have been put in place on the state election board to do his bidding, to gum up the works, to not certify elections so that it can be thrown either to the state legislature or to the Congress. So we know that is going on. And so not only do we need to register voters, inform voters, mobilize them to get to the polls, but we're also going to have in place that continued civic engagement, that we are watching those who are supposed to be doing the will of the people, who have their own vested interest, underhanded interests at mind, that are doing partisan things. So that's going to be another part of this process, that our work is not going to be done on November 5th. It's going to be continued civic engagement even into November, December, and January, so that we make sure that our voices are not canceled out, that they are heard, and that the duly elected leadership actually takes office in January. So thanks for the Center for Common Ground. We're always available because they have always been available to us, and we're just delighted to support them in every effort, because they've supported us 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.